Hello and welcome back to the OnlyAccies channel for today's preview of Raith Rovers and the season as a whole. As always, joined by Brandon and David, and our guest today is Accies fan Ewan Summers. Ewan, I'll come to you first, mate. Talk about the Albion Rovers game briefly. I mean, bit of a shit show, let's be honest. Really, really weak side. We ended up getting the extra point on penalties, but the fact that it went to penalties is disgraceful in itself. I'm wondering what your thoughts were on the game afterwards. Now you've had some time to process it.
It was really, really, really poor, especially the first half was quite incredible, just how bad it was. The second half was more dull than shocking more than anything. Probably was better than their United game, I would say, and there's obviously the caveat that it was just a bunch of kids mostly out there as well, so you sort of felt bad for. What I would say was Marley Redfern's a real bright spark on the left-hand side. I thought he was impressive, and I'd keep him in for the first league game of the season as well.
I thought him and Lewis Smith worked quite well coming in from both wings. Brandon, you obviously weren't able to attend the game, but from an outside perspective, you know, you're watching your team draw 2-2 with a League Two outfit and get taken to penalties. What were you thinking watching that from home?
I think the night before I got somebody text me, and I think there was a sort of text going about for group chat. Somebody made up a rumour saying that Accies have got quite a lot of players out and it's going to be a team full of 15, 16, 17-year-olds. So to lump Albion Rovers. So some folk didn't know if that was true or no, but I took it for gospel and I bet Albion Rovers. And no, I was very uninterested, if I'm being honest with you. I was watching, usually regardless who Accies are playing, I've got a certain level of enthusiasm and I'm really wanting to be involved in it. But that game, just because of how the sort of League Cup matches had gone already, I wasn't really that interested. We'd fucked up already. It wasn't in our own hands, and I didn't know the team until we were already 2-0 down. So I saw the result at half time. I checked my phone and I was like, for fuck's sake. And then I didn't check my phone until about after full time when I saw that we'd obviously won in penalties. I don't think you can call it one. We drew, then got the consolation point. But no, as far as I'm aware, I don't want to comment on the game too much because I wasn't there, so it's not really fair for me to make judgment. But for the comments I've read, it was just a shit show, like you said.
And David, we were obviously at the game. We suffered through it, I think is probably the best way to say it. Again, now you've had a few days to process it. Where do you stand?
Mate, I've been thinking about it all week. The thing that's really kind of like fucking me off is, I mean, see when you look around, like you're jealous of teams like Partick Thistle and Dunfermline. Look at Dunfermline. I mean, we'll get into signings later, but they're just strengthening and strengthening. They've signed potentially one of the best players in the league, and then a couple of days later you see them linked to even more great players. They're absolutely romping that group that I'm pretty sure they had an SPL team in it. Can you imagine just going into a season on the back of 4 wins in your group games? You've got signings you can't wait to see and buzzing to go into it. Whereas, like, I don't think we've ever been this underprepared for a season. And if anything, we should be better equipped than most, because we've been the team that's spent the last 7 years in the SPL. But mate, there's been no buzz at all. And see, to be fair, man, the fans deserve to be a bit more excited. But even myself, I would like to think that I try to see the positives in things. Like when Andy Ryan signed and people were a bit negative, I said to you, actually, I can see the logic behind this. I think it might work. But there's nothing to be positive about, and that performance at the weekend just showed it. We can't win ugly. Like, we really can't win ugly. And we definitely can't fucking win pretty either. So it's scary, mate. I've been thinking about it a lot.
I mean, you were saying there about the squad we had. Really, really weak, and it highlights our lack of depth, and we're having to put these young kids in who simply aren't ready. And we saw that against Albion Rovers, you know. Not to pick on anybody individually, but we saw that they weren't ready. And again, we keep going on about it. And I said to Brandon before, we don't want to sound like broken records saying this, but transfers. We call for them every week. We're getting told every week we are getting them, and they never seem to come. Before we talk about that, though, we will cut to Brandon, who is at New Douglas Park. to give us a transfer update.
Here we are down here at a sunny New Douglas Park on Thursday afternoon, 2 days before our league opener against Raith in the Championship, and fuck all's happening.
Thanks for that, Brandon. Thanks for that, Brandon. Nothing is happening. It seems not even a whiff of a player. Usually, I was saying to Brandon as well earlier on, people like Brandon who are FBI agents when it comes to signings, if there's any small rumour that is found, we've got nothing right now. Ewan, looking at that squad again against Albion Rovers, a few players coming back from injury. We've been told for Raith, but we still desperately need players in.
Absolutely. I know everyone is absolutely rightly saying we need a striker, and we definitely do. But because our lack of options up front, everyone's forgetting that our right back options are Ben Stirling, Sean Mont, and George Stanger as well. I mean, they're all centre backs. Ben Stirling, let's not get into Ben Stirling in general. But how have we ended up in this situation, as we seem to do every single season, where we've started without a right back and we've left it to the last minute? It's the exact same as the striker situation. In midfield, I'm beginning to think that Spence was probably signed preempting the Dauphin leaving. Even then, I'd still quite like to see a replacement for the Dauphin brought in. I love Scott Martin, but he's not going to be fit for months. Then I don't see exactly how we're going to line up in midfield either. Out wide, I think Lewis Smith's, he's had a frustrating last couple of games, but I still think he's a really exciting player. And Marley Redfern, as I spoke about, he impressed as well. But even then, Kyle Monroe, Callum Smith, jury's probably still out on them. I still wouldn't mind us moving to the formation that we played last season, the 3-4-1-2, because I think it gets the best out of a lot of our players and can sort of paper over the fact that we've not got too many wide options. Jamie Hamilton looked brilliant in that system. Scott McMahon did as well. Temps would be perfect for that number 10 position as well. So, but then it all comes back to who's going to play right wing back and who will play up front. We need bodies in before we start talking about systems, though.
Yeah, definitely. Brandon, will come to you as well. I mean, again, don't want to sound like a broken record, but there's not a single thing of transfer business going on. It seems from the outside.
It's hard though. We're saying, we don't want to sound like broken records, but what are we meant to do when the club are sounding like broken records by saying, we're getting 3 and 4 players in the next couple of days? It's 4 weeks later and there's still no MD in. So it's annoying because we've been so well prepared for, and we rode our luck and we stayed in the Premier League for 7 years, but each one of the years, apart from the year with Alec Neil, we were so well prepared each beginning of the season. It wasn't until a couple of months into the season where we kicked on and we perhaps realised, we're going to need to actually bring players in and spend some money here. And it looks like it's going to happen again when we're in the Championship, where, as what David says is, you'd think now we've went down a division. We've said that the objective is to get back to the Premier League. So you think that they would have everything in place for at least the league starting, never mind the fucking horrendous League Cup that we had every single season as well. But it's just mind-boggling how well prepared they are. I don't know what it is. I don't know if they maybe think we'll just see how it goes. Failure to prepare is preparing to fail. Do you know what I mean? So that's what they've done, and I don't see any player coming in the next day and a half anyway. So it's not looking very bright for Raith, and I just hope that they've got Sutton in the offing and they're not just waiting to the loan market in England. And because if a Dolphin's gone, then that means that we need to bring in even more players. Before a Dolphin was gone, it was 3 or 4 minimum. Now that adds another player. So it's if we're going to go ahead with sort of these youth players that were there at Albion Rovers, then prepare yourself for a double relegation.
I genuinely have thoughts of why. Like you're saying, I don't know what they're thinking. I honestly think, because I've been thinking about this all week, I think they genuinely think that they were ready to go up. I think they were prepared to bring in minimal signings if they had to. Like they might lose the Keema Dauphin, they might lose Scott McMahon or something like that, but I genuinely think that we thought right up until the last couple of weeks that squad was ready and that squad was good enough. And I honestly think that I think we're making ourselves look like a fucking shambles. We looking for anything we can get now. Because I honestly think that they didn't have any backup plan. I think they thought that the players they've got were good enough to win that league. I think they were going in prepared not to make many signings, if any.
I think the thing that was forgetting, don't get me wrong, if every one of the players is fit, then you are one or two signings away from genuinely competing in that league. But Accies have probably got the worst injury record in the whole of Britain, so that's never going to be the case. So it's they might say, oh, they genuinely thought in their head we're only a couple of players away for actually competing with what they've got, but that's not what they've got, because they've got fucking 10 players out minimum each week, and unless they fix that, then they need to put their hands in the pocket and get more players, because we've just seen how thin the squad really is. 1 week before the actual league starts, that's how thin your squad is. You look at that team, and that genuinely, if you wouldn't bat an eyelid if you saw that team was in League Two, because how thin it was, how young the players were, some older faces that might be at the end of their sort of career as such. So, it's just too thin, and it's just ill prepared. That hopefully, with the past sort of results in the past few weeks, and what they've saw the fans reacting as, hopefully that will give them a kick up there sooner rather than later, because we really need players in.
I was saying that when we're doing a prediction, I think I'd be happy with anything playoff wise, and then maybe have another go next year. But see the way I'm thinking it now, see if we don't go up this year, do you think the likes of Jamie Hamilton and Lewis Smith are going to kick about? And then where is this squad that we've got now? We need to root it. That's a League One squad. I think it's quite worrying times now, man. There's nothing to be positive about with that squad.
I think retouching on the Scott McMahon point is, I think the issue is he doesn't want to go to England. And the Scottish clubs aren't prepared to pay a fee. But I would have no... I don't think there's any doubt if Scott McMahon was to stay with us, I don't think he'd allow himself to go for free. I think he'd maybe sign on another year. So if we were to get something for him, then we would. But as you say, we've got 3 left backs. Of course, we want to keep the best one, which in my opinion is Scott McMahon. But it's then where do you put Kieran McDonald? We're always complaining about playing players in the wrong position. So although probably McDonald, in my opinion, would be a better option than other right backs, I just don't know how you'd work that one. What would you think, Ewan?
No, I mean, I think everyone was the same. The alarm bells were ringing when they saw Kieran McDonald with the number 7 shirt. They just assumed that he was going to be playing further forward. When he was signed, I saw Brian Rice did say we've signed him just in case something does happen with McMahon, which, like David was saying, that sort of indicated that they were signing him with a view to leave. But I don't know if you were all at the United game. We had 2 left backs in the park at one point as well, with Kel Monroe at left wing back and Kieran McDonald at right wing back as well. So maybe that's how he sees it. I'm not too sure, with Scott McMahon obviously coming in from Monroe.
I mean, we keep going on about needing a striker, and I'm interested if any of you guys have any names that stand out to you right now, but players we should be trying to target. I can think of one. It's one that's been brought up by another Accies fan previously. It would have to be a loan move, unfortunately, but it's Conor McBride from Blackburn. That name was thrown in. I think it's just like a rumour that was flying around. I don't think there's anything really behind it. But when I started looking more into him, he's a player that's really, really exciting. He is really exciting. He's obviously Scottish. He's got experience up here. He was with Celtic and Stenhousemuir, I think. So he's got experience up in Scotland. He's obviously Scottish himself. But, I mean, looking down, when you look at players who came from, like, the second Premier League, we've had experience with that. Was Aaron Smith we signed before, who, again, the less said of it, somebody like Aaron Smith, the better. But when he's went down there, Conor McBride, he scored, I think it was over 10 goals. He's got, I think it was 5 or 6 assists in that league as well. That's not an easy league, even though it is the second, this kind of the under 23s, whatever it is. He's somebody that I think would be a really, really exciting loan move. And it's unfortunate it would have to be a loan move, but in for a season, it gives him an opportunity to showcase himself, and hopefully we get a kind of young, exciting striker to come in and give us something different up front. That's a name I would throw in there. I don't know if you guys have got any other ones you'd be.
I think with that one's a one. I think that came about because I think there was talk as using the loan market and perhaps looking at Sunderland or Blackburn as teams to use. So I think people added two and two and got Conor McBride with that one, which he's been playing in Blackburn's first team in pre-season. He scored already in pre-season. He was voted. He was up for the running for the Player of the Year for the Under-23s league. He's Scottish. He's I think Doncaster are in for him as well, which are obviously a bigger team than Accies, unfortunately. But no, it totally makes sense. We've already got the relationship there with Paris Hilton's loan move with Blackburn already. So I think we need a striker. If we're going to use a loan market, we've already got the contacts with Blackburn. He clearly knows how to score a goal when he's scoring against under 23 big clubs, and he's getting voted up for the run in the top three for the Player of the Year. When you've got like players from Man City and whatnot in the leagues, so no, we're crying out for players to sign. There's not much people that I can name off the top of my head, but if they were to announce Conor McBride in the next week, I'd be extremely happy. Like very, very happy. Do you have any names in mind? I'm sure you have lots of since your Football Manager database.
Wait till I get it fired up.
Bring out your scroll.
To be fair, man, like I've actually lately been struggling for names, because anyone that you would have taken, like Todorov and Dooku, they've already got their moves. I agree completely with the whole loan thing. Conor McBride, Ben sent me his stats and all that, and that would be really positive. Because usually when we get a loan guy like that, it's someone who's played next to no senior football. But for me, we need to, with money in the pocket, we need to really invest and actually get a striker that's going to be with us for at least the next 2 seasons. We need to go out and buy somebody. Now, it needs to be somebody established, like, for example, like Gavin Riley for Livy, if he's not getting all the game time, or Danny Mullins for Dundee, an established Scottish striker who, like I said, we will see the tweet when it's announced and think that's exactly what we're needing. We need to get somebody like that. Off the top of my head, I can't really think of any other names. I did put up a tweet last night that I seen the boy Owen Moffat at Celtic, and there was a wee piece about him, how he's been standing out for them under 23s, and possibly there's talks for loan moves for a few clubs. But for me personally, I would really need to see a permanent striker in.
I don't bother with these things for Accies because they never ever materialised. Like I gave up with that years ago because they'll just bring in some random guy who may turn out good, who may turn out absolute garbage. So I don't bother with that anymore. Just makes me sad.
The thing that the club could maybe use to their penny pinching ways to make it a success here is if they're not actually wanting to spend that much money, they're bringing in this amount of money that they didn't expect to come very often. See, if you want a penny pinch, just use it in people's wages for loans. Just use it. Although with what we've touched on, we'll be in the same situation in a year's time. And I don't want to say deal with it in a year's time, but in order to stop us having this double relegation, they need to do something with this money that they're going to bring in with Dauphin, and if they don't invest it wisely, they're going to have a mini riot in their hands with the Accies fans. That'll be much more than their big boxing night on Saturday.
That's the thing, though, that the discussion's like slowly moving away from a promotion push to another relegation battle and avoiding a double relegation. It's crazy.
If we were to look ahead to that Raith game, to touch on the Raith team, they were one of the favourites to go up. Very nearly did it through playoffs. Just didn't manage it. They have lost a lot of their key players though. People like Regan Hendry, Daniel Armstrong, Manny Duku, they've all gone.
Good McDonald.
Kieran McDonald.
McDonald, of course, as well. But Brandon, you were telling me how the style of football that the manager has ingrained in them is basically the total opposite of to how we sit. And this is going to be, and we all knew it was going to be a difficult game anyway. But how they play is going to cause us so many problems.
I mean, I've not particularly had too much notice of the results, so I'm sure you'll be able to fill me in with how Raith went on in the cup. But I know McGlynn embeds this style of play in his teams, regardless what division they're in, who they're playing. He's always been the same, and that's what he's done with that Raith team. It's a sort of no fear attacking, sort of flowing, nice looking football that he done with that Raith team. Like you said, they've lost a lot of their influential players. In fact, they lost quite a lot of their players, even the non-influential ones. So it has been a kind of squad revamp for them. So I don't know what that'll mean. I don't particularly think they'll be as good as what they were last season. But like you say, McGlynn embeds a style of football in them that we've not really came up against as of yet, if we're being honest. In our League Cup matches, we've played against all opposition which aren't of the level of Raith, plus the teams we've played don't play particularly nice football as well. It's been really horrible football to watch from both sides of things. So we're about to play a team that like to play football, and we've not came up against that yet. So it's a bit worrying to what the outcome of that's going to be.
The same as Brandon. I saw bits and bobs of them last season and thought they had some really, really nice technical footballers, especially in their midfield and out wide, and enjoyed watching them for the most part. They played some good stuff. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't concerned with this, especially with the guys who are potentially coming back for us. Andy Ryan and Lewis Spence are the only ones who might be fit. They might not. I'm not too sure. If no one else has had a pre-season, then we're probably not seeing a massive upgrade in what we've seen throughout the League Cup campaign. So yeah, I'm a bit concerned.
I always say on here, when we are approaching some teams, I think if we're going to get beat, it's going to be down to us more than them. They had a great season last year. They had some brilliant players like Regan Hendry and Manny Duku. I think with a fully fit squad, they're definitely beatable by ourselves. But like you say, you're taking a guess of what the team's even going to be. We don't know anything about injuries. We don't know who's fit, who's no. Is there anybody coming in? I would snatch your hand off for a draw, which I think's pretty sad, considering this is their first game in the Championship coming down for the SPL. Some of the players in their squad that we've got as well, but there's no confidence at all. At the end of the day, Ayr United had one chance that whole game against us, and they beat us. So I think it will be relatively similar, like Brandon said. Raith had the potential to play a bit more football than Ayr United did, but I think it's going to be down to ourselves that we're just toothless now. Like, we've said that about Aki's teams for years and years when we've had some of the strikers that we've had, but we are literally toothless now. I couldn't tell you where goals are going to come from. I mean, penalties probably has our best chance of a goal than fucking Ronan Hughes. 10 goals on penalties this year, probably put a bet on that. But no, I've honestly been driving myself mental about this all week. But there's no positives. I'm quite confident we will get beat.
I mean, you see, I'm just looking at the Raith's team now, and see if you compare it player to player. They've got a better team in the day. Jamie McDonald is better than Paris Hilton. Regan Tumulty is better than Sterling. Christoph Berra.
Ewan said that we sucked.
Christoph Berra in Easton, similar boat. But I read an article the other day that I think it was, I don't know if it was Sked or if it was Sked or one of the boys for the View for the Terrace, saying how Berra's actually looking like a bit of a player. He's actually playing the ball out from the back, which for a absolute dunderhead like Berra it shows that McGlynn's trying to instill that. The teams aren't that far apart, but the difference with them is they've got a fully selectable and fully sort of fit team, that they've got a core of that team. Like they've got McDonald in goals, Tumulty, Berra, Benedictus, Dylan Tate, and Zanata, and then Vaughan. So that's a strong core. Do you know what I mean? We've not got a strong core, because there's so many players out and whatnot. So it's a tough one, but it's annoying because I think I saw a fan, I think it was Gavin Baxter, wrote, "Thanks for the update." It just shows you what would happen if what would probably be the case if we had a few players signed like we were promised. Which it would be the case if we were more prepared and we had these players in, then we wouldn't be sitting here moaning and fucking being on the club's case about no signing players and being ill prepared, because we'd feel a bit more confident at the fact that we're not going into our first league match having only won 2 games out of the full pre-season and League Cup, and our strikers only scoring 2 goals the full period, and it was Carl Smith that scored both.
Gavin Baxter, spot on. If we have a fully fit squad, we are close to competing. We would still need these players in, but where we stand now, we're so far off it, and it is incredibly worrying going into Raith, who I think outside of Kilmarnock and Dunfermline, probably the hardest start we could have asked for in the Championship is one of those 3 teams. And in my opinion, anyway. I'll get your score predictions now before we put them in our league table. Brandon, I'll start with you. If you were to give a score prediction for this, where are you looking?
2-1 Raith.
2-1 Raith. Okay, Raith to win it. David?
I've genuinely got a horrible feeling. I honestly could see it being like 3-0 Raith.
Oh, okay. Ewan, are you going to be?
I'll go 2-0 Raith.
Slightly more positive than David. I actually agree with Brandon. I think it'll be 2-1 Raith. Where are goals going to come from though? I don't know, but
that's why I didn't go with one for us. I don't know.
Morning Hughes penalty.
He's bound to miss eventually, surely.
This chat, but you know what I mean. Championship, first game of the season, coming down for 7 years in the SPL. We've got some of the brightest young players in Lewis Smith and Jamie Hamilton. Jamie Hamilton is actually coming on to some of his best form, and we can't even, amongst us, predict a positive result against Raith fucking Rovers. You know what I mean? Like, no disrespect to them, but they're just an established Championship team. Surely we should be beating them. But I wouldn't put a penny on it, man.
No.
Like, it's fucking terrifying now, man. Because I see one of these things that's just wound me up for years about Accies. There's 2 big things, right? And this is since I was a kid, so one of these is pretty trivial. But the one thing is, I always get jealous when I see, around about January, February every year, clubs putting out stencils and kits, and fans get to vote for kits. That's one thing that I just always thought, oh, I wish Accies would fucking do that. And the other thing was when you see teams starting to announce pre-contract signings, and the best team for it in the country right now are Livy. Livy genuinely must spend all year scouting the Championship, and they think he'll do a job for us. Alan Forrest, Fair United, players like that they bring up and actually look, and they take, like Lyndon Dykes, they take one of the best players for other teams and say, listen, we're at a higher level, one to us. I don't think we've ever done that in as long as I've been an Accies fan.
It's because we portray ourselves. We don't portray ourselves that way. We have just been in the top tier for 7 seasons in a row. We've been in the top tier 10 years out of the past 13. But we portray ourselves as a small club. We might not have a lot of fans, but see, maybe if we portray ourselves in the manner which we should be, in which we've said we want to go back to where we belong, instead of, so if we want to go back to where we belong, why are we still portraying ourselves as this wee club with wee fan base and wee budget? It makes no sense.
I mean, I said this, I don't know if I've even said this on camera before, I've definitely said this to Ben, but like, I thought to myself, oh fuck, see when we signed Kieran McDonald, I thought the club are going to strut about this, saying, oh, there you go, Championship left back of the year, we got him. Kieran McDonald came to us because he chose us for his own personal reasons. We didn't fucking wow Kieran McDonald with our vision or put an offer on the table he couldn't refuse. it was the best option for him personally, and he chose to come here. Like,
Free gobbles for a year for David McFarlane.
who would say no? But the thing is, man, like I can't even think of like League One players that we could say, listen, come to us, we're in a championship. I don't think we could get the best players for any team in this fucking country, man. Like, genuinely, we just don't operate that way. And look at how it's paid off for teams like Livingston. I mean, they weighed, what, £1 million off Lyndon Dykes. Are you telling me that at the time, a striker for Queen of the South wouldn't want to go to Hamilton Accies in the Premier League? Chances are it's no, because I would love to actually ask a player, and you'd never get an honest answer at them, but see, ask a player that's got no ties to Hamilton, what is the consensus on Hamilton Accies out there? You probably find that players say themselves, nah, you don't fucking touch them if you want milk tokens for wages.
Aki's usually, apart from a very small amount of players, i.e. Tony Andrew, Aki's rarely see that as a sort of mentality and their ethos is signing players to then sell them on for a fee. They rather it coming from their own academy, and they seem to think that the academy is just going to produce and produce and produce year in after year. That's not going to be the case. I don't know what your thoughts are, Ewan, on the sort of how we go about our transfers, but it's frustrating, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And even the academy, that really, really annoys me. I was quite, when I was at the club for the Fog Cup game, Alan Maitland said that Jamie Hamilton will be signing a new contract. And I was thinking, absolutely better, because that's one of the best prospects we've had in years, and we could lose him on a free next summer. And that happens so much. Look at the amount of brilliant prospects we've had coming through who've stagnated because we didn't sell them at the right time. They ended up going for nothing. And Lewis Ferguson as well, he's going to end up having a brilliant career, lost them for peanuts. Eben Brophy, who we thought was going to be great, stagnated, lost them for absolutely nothing. And like you say, we've got a fee for the Dauphin. I don't know if we'll ever know how much it was. But yeah, Tony Andrew, £1 million, probably the only fee we've got for a guy who didn't come through the academy.
I just don't see why we just don't explore that for our team for the now. I mean, the only time I can think that we went out, purchased a player, he's went straight into a starting 11 and improved his, was the first time we signed Dougie Imrie, when we got him for Cali Thistle. I think we paid, 30 grand or something for him. He came in and he done a job. I mean, the only other time we did that kind of transfer, it was a free transfer. But when we get Michael McGovern, he's someone that the second I saw his name on Twitter that he signed for Accies, I thought, that is a fucking quality signing. That'll improve us big time. When was the last time we actually signed a player and you think, Jesus Christ, what a signing? Like, Kieran McDonald is a good signing on paper, but we all said that's to compensate for a better player leaving. The next couple of days, we really need, and we deserve to sign a couple of players we think, fucking, here we go. That is what we need. The chances are it'll be loans, and then this time next year we're in the exact same position. That's
what I was thinking. If somehow we end up getting promoted to the playoffs or winning the league this season with, say, 2 loan players as our star players, how often do we end up extending loans or getting them permanently as well? So, like you're saying, the exact same position this time next year.
We don't even explore loans anymore. I mean, look how the Wigan connection paid off for us back in the day, when we eventually got guys like Danny Redmond and John Routledge on a free. They did good jobs for us, but we don't even make loan moves anymore.
As we look ahead to the season as a whole, we've all gave our predictions on it. They may be different now, given we're a few weeks into the season. We're maybe not as confident as we were. I'm interested where you stand currently and where you see Accies finishing in the league.
I'll go for a mid-table finish. There's part of my mind that's thinking, surely we can't end up going straight into a relegation battle, but there's not really any reason why we can't be doing that, other than the small part of my mind that's telling me surely not. I think Kilmarnock will win the league. I don't think we'll come close to finishing top. We might be well around the playoffs at some point of the season, but maybe we'll sneak into them. I don't think we'll get promoted, but I think it will be our first boring season in quite some time.
Yeah, I mean, what we said at the start of the season was we were all for a period of time very excited. This whole new season, new chapter. This hashtag whatever it takes and all that.
That is not going to end well.
Listen, the less said about that, the better. But I mean, look at us now. We're fucking 4 weeks in. We've been kicked. We've been kicked at the cup, and we're sitting here moaning about the fact we had 16-year-olds playing a must-win cup game. That's 4 weeks difference. Is frightening. And I said at the start of the season that I think we will get the playoffs, but we won't get promoted into. And that was my prediction. I said I think we've finished fourth or fifth. I think with fourth is playoffs. I think is roughly what I said. See, now I'm with you, man. I'm thinking lower than that. And all these people saying the fear is we do a Partick or a Falkirk, a back-to-back relegation, we just plummet down. That's not far off.
No.
Let's be honest here, from where we're sitting right now, that's not far off. David, who was it? Was it you that said that when you were leaving one of the games, you heard some opposition fans?
Oh, aye. And he overheard a group of 2 or 3 United fans, and one of them said to the other one, "I'm fucking telling you, that lot are doing a Thistle." And he said, you know what I mean? They've been in that league for years. They've seen it all, and they were saying that lot are doing a Thistle. I can see them dropping down again. And in the end of the day, man, that's in my opinion, that's down to nothing else but our lack of muscle in the transfer department. Because now I genuinely think we're scrambling and asking anybody. I wouldn't be fucking surprised if Tony Andrews playing again. You know what I mean? I think that'll be our bottom of the barrel stuff. I can't think of any. In my opinion, we need to invest in a striker for the next couple of years. So we're not in the same position scrapping about for somebody that will score his goals. I just don't think they're willing to do it. It'll be loan signings probably.
No, I feel like we're now closer to the bottom of the league rather than the top of the league. I think in my initial prediction it was 4th or 5th. But we saw how we've performed. We saw results against lower league opposition and a team in our own league that are probably near the bottom and the top, and it's not for pretty viewing, and it wasn't for pretty viewing either. It's all down to ill preparing, lack of depth there are in the squad. It's just, I thought they would have carried on how they were with the signings. At the start, they sort of made a few signings. People were happy they were making the signings, but I think they've made the signings thinking, right, we'll see how they work in the bounce games in the in the sort of League Cup matches, and then that'll be them ready for the season, thinking they were more prepared than what they already were. But it's clear to show that we're nowhere near ready. We thought we got through to them. We thought that they were going to do the right things, but it just seems like it's the same thing year in, year out. Like David's touched on, we lack of signing the proper people. They're now going to probably go down the loan market for players where you've just brought in money for off and leaving. Reinvest it in the squad correctly and don't penny pinch. It's clear to see we're not ready. If we want to do hashtag whatever it takes, and if we want to be anywhere near promotion contenders, then a lot of change needs to happen in the next coming weeks, or else it's going to be far too late.
So, look at the last year. We had Hakeem Adoffin, an unknown for Livingston, who is now a 6-figure transfer to English League One. Ross Callaghan was a bit player at many clubs, bouncing from club to club. He then got 10 league goals in the Premiership last year, and then got himself a bigger money move to another Premiership team. And then you get Bruce Anderson, another player who came from a bigger club, had a reputation of kind of fucking about, not really done it yet. He impressed with us and then got himself a permanent move to a decent team in the Premiership. So I don't understand. Something's not adding up why players just don't want to come to Accies. The ones that do, it does benefit them more often than not, and they can go on to better things. Is it just the fact that people make these jokes online about we're offering £100 a week and Happy Meals? Are we just not savvy enough, and we're just trying to fucking get away with spending as little as possible on every aspect of that team? Because, like I've said before, we've had 7 years SPL prize money. We should actually be sitting with more money in the bank than the likes of your St Mirren's and Livingston, because we don't have anywhere near the expenses that they do, wage-wise, facilities, anything like that. Where is the money going? What are we no doing right? Because we should have money to spend on players, and players should be wanting to come to us. We've got some bright young players. People have moved on to better things, but why are we fucking looking to bring in non-league players or just loans to keep us going?
I think it's mostly because they've got away with penny pinching they got away with it for 6 years or 7 years or whatever. Just they've got by spending very, very little and scraping 10th every single season, keeping in the top flight, and they've seen that as a model of success. And I think a lot of the reason why players don't want to come is because we won't be offering that much money, and also every single season was a relegation battle and just scraping by every single time. It's strange because some guys, I was watching Alex Gogic before he came on playing for Hibs, have used us as a brilliant stepping stone, but as a club, as a performance season on season, it wasn't an attractive prospect in the Premiership.
Right, we've obviously talked about where we think how the season's going to go and whatnot. I'm interested to know a bit more about individuals Iraqis this season. So we'll start with you, Ben. Who do you think our player of the season will be, our surprise player to watch this season, and the worst player throughout the full season?
Best player, I have to go with Jamie Hamilton. I can't see anybody else having a season like him. I mean, we saw in the cup games how much he strolled that. We said Ayr would be our toughest task. Championship opposition, blah blah blah. And even though we lost, he was walking that game. I don't think he put a sweat. Never got a first gear. So Jamie Hamilton for me, I don't think anybody else kind of comes close really. Maybe Lewis Smith, but it depends if he can kind of get switched on. Surprise player. The player I'm thinking of, I don't want to say because I'll get absolutely lambasted for it. I want to say
do it.
Surprise player Ronan Hughes. And
I knew you say that.
The reason I say that is we all have, I think, this preconception of Ronan Hughes because of what he did or didn't do in the Premiership. He has dropped down a level. And let's be honest, in the cup games, he's not been the worst player. He really, really hasn't been the worst player. I'm not saying he's been one of the best, but he's definitely not been one of the worst. I think, from what I've seen so far, if we can get him consistent and get him partnered up with other people in midfield that complement what he does, which is chasing the ball. That's all he's done in the cup games is chase the ball. Not looked bad when he's been on it either, him and Mimno together. So I'll give surprise player Ronan Hughes. I'm expecting people to say something. Worst player I have to at the moment give, or I would have to say, I'm going to say Ben Sterling. The reason I say Ben Sterling is I don't know if people like David Moyo are still going to be here. I don't know if he would stand out, Brian. I see you're shaking your head. But the reason I say Ben Sterling is he's a player who we already know and have seen in the cup games isn't good enough at the moment, and he's being played out of position. So there's two things going against him right now. The fact that he's already not a good enough player and he's in the wrong position. So I would say Jamie Hamilton, Ronan Hughes, and Ben Sterling.
What about you, Ewan? Who's your three choices?
I think Jamie Hamilton probably will be our best, but just to spice things up a wee bit, I'll go with Temps if he stays fit, because I think a fit Templeton could absolutely be the best player in the division, and could be that guy to take us to the playoffs just single-handedly. He's that good, but the main thing is keeping him fit. I think he's been out since October as well, so will be a slow start for him getting him back to fitness, but I'll go Temps player of the season. But I mean, it's hard to argue with Jamie Hamilton. Surprise player, I'd like to say Andy Winter, but I don't know when he's going to be back fit.
He's out for ages.
Right, that's disappointing. I'll go Marley Redfern then, because I've liked what I've seen of him, especially when he's when he's been starting, and he seems to be new poster boy. So I'll go Marley Redfern for the surprise player. And worst, I'm a wee bit worried about Brian Easton's season. I think he looked a wee bit shaky, especially in the air game, and I just felt I thought he did okay when he came in the 1920 season, but I thought he was poor last season, and this season I'm worried he's just going to start creaking a wee bit and make a bit too many mistakes. So yeah, I'll go with Easton for that one.
And you, David, who's your best? Who do you think will be the best player for us this season?
It's just the same old answer, man. Jamie Hamilton. I think we all thought before any games were played that he would be up there, but I don't think any's expected us to be the way he is so quickly already. I mean, he is strolling at the now. I think he will be the best by a mile. Lewis Smith, definitely up there as well, but Jamie Hamilton's the best. What's the next one? Most surprising?
Surprise player of the season, like surprisingly good.
Probably Redfern. I got to admit, it was only the Albion Rovers game that really caught my eye with him. I wasn't too impressed before that, but he was exciting. Granted, it is lower position, even though, in my opinion, they technically beat us that game. I would probably say Marley Redfern, and I agree with all Ben's points about Ronan Hughes. I think Brandon's mentioned when talking about Moyo that as Accies fans we do have a habit of getting on at a player, and even at times where they're not even that bad, making out they're a lot worse than they actually are. I mean, there's times where Moyo's been on the park and ran centres, he'll get slated for that. But if it was someone else, they could have done something worse and nothing gets said. So I think Ronan Hughes is showing some signs. Even though he scored penalties, he's still scoring goals. So I think he could be a surprise too. The uninspiring one, I'm actually going to agree with you with Brian Easton. I think it's been quite alarming fitness-wise with Brian Easton. Just that he looks out his depth, kind of fitness-wise these days. But I'll need to share that with David Moyo as well, though, because at the same time, you can't win anything without scoring goals. And at this moment right now, he's our only kind of recognised striker. So that's disappointing.
Like you said, Jamie Hamilton is, in my opinion, the best player in that league, or he's got the ability to be the best. He's got the potential to be the best player in that league. He's class above everybody else, and he's just a player that having in your team at such a young age, it's just amazing to watch. Like Ewan said as well, if Temps is fit, he's got the ability to single-handedly win his games in the Premiership, never mind the Championship. So we've no saw him in a while, and we've barely saw much of him. So fingers crossed we will see a lot of him. It's between the two for me. At the present moment, like you said, Lewis Smith as well. He's got the ability there, but the difference between Lewis Smith and Temps is like Lewis Smith kind of needs other players to help bring him out a bit. We've not got other players there at the moment to help bring him out. Temps can do it single-handedly. So I'd say best player of the season will be Jamie Hamilton. And then the other two players, if fit, will definitely be up there. Most surprising, I think, will be Ryan Fulton. I think Fulton will have a really good season. There was glimpses in last season where he was showing how good a shot stopper he was. He saved his points, or he saved his absolute downs on several occasions. The level of team is obviously lesser in the Championship, so hopefully he comes back for his slipping in his front doorstep injury, and that's not affected him too much. But I think he'll surprise a few. I think he'll save us quite a few red faces this year. Red, most uninspiring player. I think Ben's is a good shout at the present moment because Ben Sterling, he's played in his unnatural position. He obviously does get a lot of slack from everyone, but at the same time, it's a typical Accies thing. You've signed a player and then straight away we've put him in his unnatural position, so he's not really got much chance. Callum Smith, I'm just I don't know if it's because everybody slags Moyo on a persistent basis. I feel they need to sort of take the attention away from him slightly. But although Callum Smith has scored 2 goals in the League Cup, I don't know. I just feel you don't know he's there very much, and because you don't know that he's there, you forget about him. So you sort of, he doesn't get the slack. But that's just as bad. You'd much rather someone, perhaps, I don't know, it's a sort of catch-22. You'd maybe rather someone was noticed, but they were horrendous, than they weren't noticed and horrendous. So it's a bit of, they're different wavelengths, Moyo and Smith, but they're fairly similar in that market. So I think I'm going to go with Ben Sterling now, but in the forward department, that will certainly be the most uninspiring as well.
I was just going to say a glimmer of positivity that the last time we won the opening league game of the season was at Raith Rovers. So there we go. There's a wee bit of positivity you can chuck in at the end, Ben.
That brings us to our end of our preview. Thank you very much for watching. We hope you did enjoy it. Thanks again to Ewan for joining us. It's always good to have him on. As we said on Twitter and as we say in the description of every video, if you want to be part of these, if you want to join us, go ahead, let us know by commenting below, drop us a message on Twitter or Instagram or something, and we'll be sure to get you on. We'll see you after the game though. Thanks a lot for watching.